Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. And boy, we got a lot to cover today. The Boatmen are Grey Cup champions again, and we have a very special guest on to chat about a wild Grey Cup between the Toronto Argonauts and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You guys know this guy. If you watch the Canadian Football League, how could you not know our friend Paul LaPolice, a longtime coach in the CFL, a two-time Grey Cup champion himself, once with the Rough Riders, once with the Bombers. Matter of fact, at the start of this Bombers run to 5 straight Grey Cup finals, Paul LaPolice joins us on the show this week. Paul, how are you? What did you make of that game? Because, I mean, the Argos, they were big underdogs in all the sports books, and they cost those sports books some serious change after the Grey Cup. What did you make of the Argos' victory over the Blue Bombers?
Well, it's pretty consistent for the Argos. I would say this. They played them 3 times. I know they didn't play great offense. This is probably their best offensive game in 3 games. But defensively, I kept saying the Bombers just didn't play great in their first loss. And then they got a bunch of penalties and they turned the ball over and they got sacked a bunch of times. The second game, similar things. I just felt like, hey, I thought the Bombers would just play better offensively and not make critical errors. If they just don't make critical errors, they'll be in the game. And the hats off to the Toronto defense. Toronto defense was spectacular for the 3rd game in a row, kept the game close. And what happened differently this game is the Argos offense, they stayed on the field. They got first downs. They didn't get a lot of points early in the first half. But when you look at it, people are asking me all the time, well, Brady Oliveira's got to touch the football more. Well, when you only have 20 plays in a half, the first half they had 20 plays. And a lot of those were second and long because they had some penalties and early drives. You're not going to the tailback can't touch the ball. So they did a spectacular job of holding the ball, keeping the ball away from the Bombers. And then when the Bombers were on the field, they forced some 2-and-outs. And it's hard to get in rhythm. And I just felt the Bombers never had rhythm.
How much do you think the Argos' game plan changed with Arbuckle at quarterback as opposed to Chad Kelly?
One of my keys to the success of Arbuckle, I felt, and having worked with Nick, he's got good football IQ. So one of the things I said, use his football IQ. He can handle a lot of volume of plays. Some people say, "Oh, we'll just cut the volume down." I don't think you need to do that with Nick. Call the plays he's best at, but he can handle volume. So I don't think it changed too much. They ran some plays that I saw that I was like, okay, that's a more advanced concepts. So I needed them to let him be a quarterback. My 2 things were, don't say, oh, don't let Nick, manage the game, all that stuff. You got to let him throw on first down because it's easier to throw and complete passes on first down than second down against the Bombers. And have enough creativity and volume in your system because he can handle it. And I thought Ryan did a good job calling a game for him to not just be too conservative.
Paul, I wonder, because things certainly changed among the minds of sports bettors out there when Chad Kelly's injury occurred. Early, before the Grey Cup, officially kicked off, you could find the Bombers favored anywhere from 4.5 points to 6.5, depending on the book. Once it was confirmed that Chad Kelly was not going to be playing, it jumped to 10.5. Now, I know a big part of that and why they were favored originally was because of the way they played defense this year. They're the only defense in the CFL that allowed sub 400 points. What was it about the way the Argos executed their offensive game plan that caused that great Bombers defense so much trouble and kept that Bombers offense off the field, like you said?
A couple of things. I thought they ran the ball decently, put themselves in some second and short situations. But one of the things that I thought they did well on second and long converting was, it's going to be a 3-man pass rush because that's what the Bombers do a lot of. So when they drop everybody out and the pass rush didn't get home, Nick bought some time with his legs or would have scrambled. You saw him do that a couple times, and he was able on the fly to throw some of those underneath throws that got the first downs or guys created first downs. That was one thing. I thought a couple of times as everybody voided the box, you saw 2 different times that the Argos ran basically middle screens or shovel passes, you would call it, where, hey, everybody constricts out of the box, hand the ball up and inside and get your yardage. And then there's a couple of opportunities that they actually hit some shots downfield. So they made a nice double move in the third or fourth quarter, I think, to make some plays. So I thought Nick did a good job. I know he had an interception, but I thought when he saw deep shots and he didn't love the deep shots, he went to the check down. So that's sometimes what you got to do against that really good Winnipeg defense. When they double team receivers, check it down underneath.
There was a lot of big plays in this game by the Argos defense. And then, of course, when Caleros got hurt, he cut the finger. That was obviously a big play. But I've never seen momentum change the way it did on that block punt and that penalty. I've never seen that call before. Like, even if the Argos recovered that ball, it's still Bombers' ball. Have you ever seen that? And was that a pivotal play in the game?
So as soon as I saw the flag, I knew it was going to be fumble interference. And This is what's crazy. I've been a head coach in the league for a long time. Fumble interference is something we always taught our players during training camp. We kind of actually taught this scenario. I would always have a slide that would say, listen, if there's a loose ball on the ground and you interfere with a guy going for it, he's going to get the ball. I've never really thought about it in the aspect of a blocked punt, right, where no matter if you pick that ball up, you're not going to get the yardage for the first down. So as soon as that happened, I was kind of thinking, is there a difference in kicking plays, or is there a difference where the yardage gain doesn't help for a first down? And I was like, I knew the fumble interference call, but I wasn't sure how it related to a block punt. It just shows you how many scenarios you have to be prepared for. So Andre Proulx was right next to me because he was an alternate ref. And I grabbed him like, hey, what's going on? I said, does it matter if it's a punt? Because even if that guy just falls on it, it's still Winnipeg ball.
Right.
He said, no, unfortunately, there's no way for us in the rules to really research that and say, so it's an unfortunate thing that the guy pushes him in the back, because he should have just if that guy wants the ball, let him take the ball. But once you do the fumble interference, the penalty's drawn. So yeah, a crazy change of momentum there.
Yeah.
We're chatting with longtime CFL coach Paul LaPolice, who's now an analyst. And, Paul, you mentioned, obviously, you've broken down some of the things that occurred in the game. Obviously, your YouTube channel, Coach Lapo, if people are interested in finding that. You can also find Paul all over social media and get a link to that. I genuinely wonder, and we asked Mike Hogan, the voice of the Argos, this last week, and I just wanted his opinion. I'll ask yours now, and I'm interested to hear yours even more so, because you know what the game is like. You know what it's like to be a coach. I certainly wouldn't say that I think that there's a lot of heat on Mike O'Shea, who has established himself as a great coach in this league. And this team has been to 5 straight Grey Cups. It's kind of hard to think about getting rid of a guy with that kind of success. The only issue is they won the first 2. Now they've lost 3 straight. Where is the heat meter on Mike O'Shea right now heading into next season, would you say?
Very cold. Antarctica cold, I would say.
What
O'Shea's proven in the building. A lot of people would love to be where they've been the last couple of years. Absolutely. They haven't played their best at the end of the year. But you look at the last 2 Grey Cups. The last 2 Grey Cups they lost before this one, down to the wire, end of game games. They didn't show up to the Grey Cup and didn't perform well. They got beat by a Toronto team at the end of the football game, 2 years ago, and they had a chance to kick a field goal to win it. Last year against Montreal, it's a 3rd and 3 that they convert and score next play. So it's at the end of the game. This game wasn't their best. This is their worst Grey Cup performance in the last couple of years, which is unfortunate because they're 3rd in a row. But 5 times winner of the West doesn't happen. 5 Grey Cups doesn't happen. He's in a place where the players respect him, the coaches respect him, the management respects him. So I'm sure they're going to be happy if Mike O'Shea's their head coach for the next 10 years.
That's kind of what I assumed, Paul. And I mean, like I said, you were there at the very start of this incredible run in 2019. What do you remember about that? Because that was a long time coming for that Bombers franchise that had been through an awful lot of heartache, a great fan base. And, Mike, and the way that he's coached and reestablished the dominance on that team, like he really almost played a key hand. And I would say reviving the franchise. What do you remember about that first one, though, in 2019 that has really set the tone for them being a Western powerhouse?
Well, it was 29 years, and I was an offense coordinator there in 02 and 03. I was a head coach here 10, 11, and 12, took them to a Grey Cup at 11 and lost, and then back there 16, 17, 18, 19. So what I would say is like part of the success of that process is I went there in 2016 after a couple of years of television. Mike was in the last year of his contract, and we started out 1-4. And the year before, he only won 5 games, but they gave him his third year. And in his third year, we started out 1-4. We made a quarterback change, and then we won 8 in a row. But we made to the playoffs. We played BC Lions. We got beat by BC, and we were actually performing very well. And you could say we collapsed at the end, but that warranted us an extension, or more importantly, Mike an extension, a 3-year extension. And then what people don't understand sometimes is teams at the bottom, you have to build and you have to climb. So that extension allowed us, we already had Matt Nichols in the building who helped us dramatically. Now people are like, oh, they got a quarterback. Okay, they got great facilities. We already had great facilities. Oh, we like Mike O'Shea. A lot of people say good things about Osh. Well, that gets us, I don't know, the next year, Adam Bighill. And then we get a couple more free agents. And then we keep building the talent to be competitive with Calgary, who was the best at that time. And then we keep getting better. And then Willie Jefferson shows up. So there has to be a build of the talent to get to where you need to be. And then Zach Collaros shows up. And don't forget, at this time, Zach Collaros, people are worried about he's going to be an injured quarterback. And he went the other way, and he played some of the best. He was always one of the best quarterbacks in the CFL. So now you pair him with a great roster, a great D-line and O-line. That's what you want to happen, but it takes time. You got to give a lot of credit to Wade Miller of like, hey, no, we got to keep going, keep building. And the personnel department saying, hey, we're not ready yet. We don't have enough talent yet to make sure we can compete with Calgary and the other best teams at that time. And then you have to beat that team. Like, that's the hard part. You look at, the BC Lions have had a good couple of years, and, they make a change at Rick Campbell, but Rick Campbell's been against a pretty damn good Western team that nobody's been able to beat. So, I think it is hard. Sometimes you have to give time for the guys to take it to the next level. We lost to Calgary and 17 and 18, and we're just beat. Or in 18 we were supposed to go to the Grey Cup. We're supposed to be the better team. They beat us at their place. You've got to play your best football when your football is needed. Nobody expected us to beat Hamilton in 19, but we peaked at the right time. We played well, and that started the dynasty.
Take us as fans through what would have happened on the sidelines when Collaros got hurt, went off, got bandaged up, came back, had to put a glove on. What conversation would happen between him and O'Shea?
How's it feel? Really, it's about the player. O'Shea's going to, can you throw? What do you feel like? And you understand if he's been stitched up, if he's got a glove on, all those things are going to.
Was he stitched up? Do we know this?
I don't know that.
We don't know. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But whatever, they're going to let him throw the football around and feel. I'm sure it's going to feel different for him.
Yeah.
But then
it's a tough situation, eh?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. But then you also look at it, the question like, okay, at 80% Zach Collaros versus whoever was, whether it's Wilson or Dolgala going to go in.
Yeah.
And the adrenaline of the game and all that stuff. I think, I'm sure Osh would usually lean towards the veteran in that situation. But really, as a head coach, you're going to be like, how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable enough to throw? Okay. Do you feel comfortable enough to lead? All those things. And you're not going to hurt it anymore. Once you know that from the trainer, you talk to the player and ask him how he feels.
It was a tough scene, especially with the interception right away. So
yeah,
it was a big moment for sure. right?
Yeah, it absolutely was. Paul, I want to ask you as well, conversely on the other side, on the winning side of this Grey Cup, what does this victory do for the legacy early in his career here still of a guy like Ryan Dinwiddie, who obviously 2 out of the last 3 now, they've put together a pretty nice little run here. They had a great season last year, of course, that came up short in a disastrous outing against Montreal, who ended up winning, but still 2 out of the last 3, and he's really established his own unique fingerprint on this Argos legacy here. What did this most recent victory do for him in terms of his longevity, his legacy amongst Argos fans, and his perception around the league as one of the best play callers out there? What did this victory do for him?
Well, I think a couple of things when I think the what's happened at the Argos organization. I think their personnel department has done a spectacular job bringing a lot of great players in, and you start with that, and you need great players, and they've done that. They brought a lot of great players from Calgary when Ryan came over. He was able to get a bunch of guys, and then they brought in some good young guys, and then Chad Kelly's in the building. They were able to make that transition after McLeod Bethel Thompson. And talking about like how many, they lost 7 starters last year on defense and replaced them all with some better play, like Ralph Hawley. Like, they just brought a lot of good defensive linemen in. They were able to bring in Serezna. The receivers, Makai Polk had a great year. So I want to give a hats off to them first and foremost. The personnel people have done a spectacular job. Now, number 2, I thought Ryan's done a spectacular job before I go to play calling, and is that he's had to replace a lot of coaches. If you think about his first year, he had to replace a couple guys, went to the Edmonton Elks. No problem. He replaced a bunch of guys. Then he lost Corey last year. He had to replace Corey. So I think he's managed all that change very well as a head coach. And certainly he's won a lot of football games, put them in a position with first place. So no, he's done a spectacular job, and he's done a good job of no matter what quarterback he's had in the game, and performed well. So I think he's done a spectacular job.
He certainly has. Paul LaPolice, longtime head coach in the CFL and obviously an analyst now. Coach, it's been great having you on here. I want to again plug everything that you're up to now. Follow him on social media. Go to his YouTube channel. Coach Lapo has great breakdowns on there. What's the next few months hold? What do you got planned coming up here, Paul?
I'm a little behind. I'm going to watch Toronto's offense tomorrow, so I'll post something about the offense versus the Bombers' defense. I should go out tomorrow. Then there'll be somewhat of a break a little bit. I'll go to New Hampshire. I'm an American, so I'll go to New Hampshire for American Thanksgiving, take the family down to see my family, and then come back and just kind of relax. This downtime's a little bit good to spend time with family and start driving kids to practices instead of my wife. So that's what I'll start doing.
Good to hear, man. Well, hey, enjoy American Thanksgiving down there. Have a blast, and we really, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for doing this, Paul.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, my conversation with the PWHLs. How about that? Julia Tocheri, friend of the show. She's going to join us next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. We're very pleased to be joined by another great special guest this week, a friend of the show. We've had her on before, and she's got some big career news, so we had to have her on again. You know this lady. She's had a long and distinguished career at TSN and Bar Down. She's covered junior hockey, of course, for many years, and now she's a full-time member of the PWHL's new venture, PWHL Media House, where they have purchased the rights to her podcast alongside her great co-host, Tessa Bonham, Jocks and Jill's podcast, the host and the pride of Thunder Bay, Ontario, ladies and gentlemen. Julia Tocheri is back on the show. Julia, how are you?
Ryan, that is quite the intro, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's crazy. Kind of an end of an era, but it's been fun finally getting to tell everybody what's going on with my job and stuff.
Well, before we dig into obviously this new venture, and I mean, it's technically not new. Like you and Tessa launched the podcast last year while you were both still with TSN. But before we kind of dig into what's coming next and what's going to be a very exciting season of coverage for you guys with the PWHL, I mentioned, obviously a long time. I first became familiar with you with the Bar Down crew and all that great content over many, many years. And of course on TSN covering a number of different events, Leafs Lunch, OHL stuff. You guys, you've been involved in so many different facets of the game. As you reflect back on your time with Bar Down and TSN, what are some of your favorite memories that come to mind?
Oh, Ryan, you're going to make me emo because honestly, leaving TSN was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And it wasn't something that was really on my radar that I was planning to do. And I think Tessa and I both feel that way. And we've been kind of clear in that. And in our departure from TSN and in that story in The Athletic that Haley Salvian wrote, like neither one of us were looking to leave. We both had the dream job. And that's evolved, obviously, with this new opportunity with the PWHL. It kind of feels a little bit bigger than myself and that I could help grow something in a way that, I don't know, I'm never going to make TSN any bigger. Like TSN is what it is. So it's a cool opportunity to be able to really build something. But in saying all that, favorite memories from TSN, I don't know. I started working there when I was 19 years old. So I really grew up there. I'm 26 now. I feel like I became a whole formed adult in my time working at TSN. So there's so many formative memories from like my beginnings when I was an intern or just like a new hire and doing the 6 to 2 night shift from Scarborough and like covering a bunch of games at once and having Jay and Dan walk in and like throw you a funny comment when they walk by, and it would be the coolest thing in the world when you're just starting and still in school. Junior hockey will always hold such a special place in my heart. I honestly, if you want to talk about being emo, I can't talk about the Memorial Cup. It'll make me too sad. I love the Memorial Cup. Covering that event every year for TSN will go down as the highlights of my career. It's such a special event, and it's honestly one of the reasons I love women's hockey is because the athletes are so open and they're so available and they're so willing to like contribute to your coverage and they appreciate what you're doing. And that's not to say like in the NHL, the guys aren't nice or anything like that, but there's obviously just a lot more people. There's more of an appreciation for what you do. And there's a real sense of community in women's hockey that I find a lot in junior hockey too. I loved going to those small towns. I love telling those stories like St. John, New Brunswick, Kamloops, the Saginaw, Michigan. Like these places will be so near and dear to my heart forever. Women's World Championships and like getting to be on the ice with Marie-Philippe Poulin after she gets a goal to win a world championship. I was on the ice with Bedard after that Halifax game. I got to kind of work with him that whole Halifax tournament and watch him warm up every game. And he was like the most intensive little hockey robot I've ever seen in my life. I'll never forget it. As long as I live, watching Connor Bedard warm up and what a freak he was with his sticks and hiding them before games so nobody could touch them or see them before games. And I kind of got to watch all that firsthand, how he'd be working out. Like everybody would do their pregame warm up and then he'd do this whole resistance band series for 15 minutes after everybody had gone into the room. So many hockey memories that are really cool, but they all kind of pale in comparison to the people at TSN and how much I'm going to miss them and how like flights that were messed up or like getting dinner at 2 a.m. after a shoot that didn't go well, like just memories like that with really special people, whether it was the production crew I worked with on the TSN hockey side of things or the digital side of things, that Bar Down team that really is like a family. TSN, like it's such an all-encompassing job. You really have to put all of yourself into it when you're working at TSN. So it becomes a family. So that family is definitely my fondest memory from that place.
Well, I think everybody would agree that you did put all of yourself into it, and it showed in all the great work you did over the years. And I mean, so many memories, just from watching your career, including junior hockey, of course, which I'm heavily involved in. We got to get you out to a Guelph Storm game at some point.
Oh, I love the Guelph. I've been to a Guelph Storm game. I've been to many a Guelph Storm game, not in a couple of years, like more in the Isaac Ratcliffe, Nate Schnarr era of the Guelph Storm. I made it out to those games. And my boyfriend was a Guelph Griffin last year. for
Unbelievable.
4 years. So
Toss his name out. Let's give him a shout
Liam
out
Ham,
here.
not a crazy
Hey,
amount.
let's go.
Yeah.
Liam Ham. Amazing. Well, Guelph's current assistant coach, Scott Simmons, a Griffins alumnus as well, who coached the team last year. He will be very familiar with Mr. Ham. So there you go. Hey, hockey,
it's a great
man.
town. I love
what
Guelph.
a small world. And hey, the Royal City, man. It's an awesome spot. I would love to have you out at the Sleeman Center sometime. It would be a lot of fun. We got to
Definitely.
get O-Dog down there too. I interviewed him a little bit ago for the Storm podcast, and he's like, I should get back down there. I'm like, you should. Your name's in the rafters, Jeff. Come on.
Wait,
Yeah,
he
maybe
didn't
we
even
can-
show up for that? He must have
He
been
did.
there for
No,
the retirement ceremony.
he
Oh my
did.
God.
He showed up for that.
I was gonna
Jeff
say.
he was there for that. That was 2016 or 17, I believe. They retired Jeff's number. He was the first guy to have his number retired by the team, followed by Ryan Callahan and Bert. Yeah, he was there. I actually covered that. That was before I was even actually working for the team. So,
Okay.
no, he was
Oh,
there.
people
That
like
night.
that too, man. Like everyone at TSN is such nice people. Like, oh no, those guys you see on Overdrive that make you laugh on your way home from work. Like they make me laugh so much. Just like in my quick stop and chats with them in the hallway. Like that's what's cool about TSN is the people that you see on the air really are. You can't be on TV that much and like fake your personality. Really, they're cool people.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's the thing you kind of learn when you get into the industry. Like it's great actually doing the job, and especially if you're on camera, like it's great doing the performance and entertaining people. That's fun. But the stuff that you really think about is like all the laughs you have behind the scenes with everybody, and like, just goofing off with the crew and beers, after a really bad loss or something where, it didn't go your way.
And a bad loss for me is like a terrible hit in an interview where a guy gave me one word and I'm like, oh my God, somebody give me a drink after this damn game. I'm like,
Please,
stuff like that.
yeah.
They're the best memories.
Yeah, slide me a Jack Daniels. That was tough.
Yeah.
No, but let's dig into the topic du jour, of course, which is Jocks and Jills. Now, I mentioned you and Tessa launched this last year, and like you guys have had the who's who of women's hockey on there. I mean, go down the list: Cassie Campbell, Pascal, Cami Granado. Some would say she's the greatest of all time. So many people. You've just launched as we record this. Season 2, episode 2, Blair Turnbull is on the show. So you got all the big stars on. I loved the episode you did last season with Emrance Mashmeyer too. Like it's a great show. Before we talk about obviously linking up permanently with the PWHL, how did the show come about? Like, because you and Tessa like have a great chemistry. The show's really entertaining and informative, but it's also fun to hear with the guests on there. Like, how'd you guys come up with the idea? Where did it all start?
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate that. It came from like PWHL starting and us just wanting to be more involved. Like we do international women's hockey coverage at TSN. That's how Tess and I got really close, covering the Women's World Championships together. We did our first tournament together in Calgary in 2021. And we were so excited about the inception of this new league. But like, I don't know, there's the whole chicken and the egg thing in media, right? Like you got to cover it you got to cover games for them to grow and be more successful. But games also need to be successful and good for media to show up and cover it. So TSN was playing and this is in that Athletic article that we did with Haley. Like TSN was playing the games, but they weren't producing the broadcasts. And Tessa and I were like busy she was hosting Sports Center and I do all my junior coverage and I'm kind of busy with my day-to-day bar down thing. And we wanted to do more in terms of covering the actual league itself. And there just wasn't a whole lot of room to do that. So we were like, screw it. We're going to just do it ourselves. We're going to have a podcast. And like Tessa called me and she was like, I have an idea. And I was like, a podcast? And she was like, yeah, a podcast. And I was like, oh, revolutionary. We're going to do a podcast. Everybody and their dad's got a podcast.
Yeah.
The more we looked at it, I was like, you know what? Nobody's really doing a women's hockey podcast consistently. Because there has been, I've been really careful in talking about that. Because there has been like Noxie, Noxie and Karel Emard did a podcast a couple years ago on the Steve Dangle podcast network that was so good, but obviously they're both so busy working with the PA and Cax is an agent, so it's hard for them to do that all the time. There's been lots of great podcasts. I think the Too Many Men podcast is a little bit of women's hockey coverage too, in addition to their NHL coverage. There's lots of that. Like Jeff Merrick's new show, I'm sure is going to do NHL, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of junior involved there because Jeff is the junior guru, and some PWHL too because he has lots of connections there. But there wasn't really anything in the space that was consistent, that was like really laid back and funny, that felt like having a beer with your friends, which is Tess and I are lucky because we both kind of approach sports coverage in that way. Like Tessa and I, like neither one of us have ever been like that backup serious, really news anchor type of on-air talent. So yeah, we just had a similar philosophy. And then we're like, okay, let's make this work. And we didn't really know what that meant when we started to do it. Like we wanted it to be good. So we have connections with different brands, and we tried to like work different brands to do sponsorships with us. Like we got Red Bull to throw us a launch party. And then we're like, okay, we have a podcast now. And then I was like, oh my God, we do this every week. So there was some crazy times of like, we were on opposite schedules. I was working kind of 9 to 5, and then additionally had games at night with 2, but mostly my job happened during the day with the like exception of games here and there. But Tessa's shift was mostly like 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and she was also driving an hour from Milton. So there was like honestly an hour a week where Tessa and I could catch one another and film the podcast. And sometimes it'd be like after Sports Center, I'd be like, oh, Tessa, it's fine, I'll just wait up, and we'd film it at 3 o'clock in the morning or something stupid like that. Like, but we just wanted to make it work. So it came from like a little bit of resistance that we're just not seeing the kind of coverage that we would consume covering the PWHL. We're just not seeing it. So we just wanted to provide that. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Well, there you go. And I mean, that's what sticks out about it too. I mean, it sticks out about anything good that catches on, but I mean, especially when your name is on it and Tessa's name, like everybody already just expects it's going to be good. And that's the kind of dedication that people don't see. Like that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like that behind the scenes camaraderie that occurs.
Yeah.
People just see the final product. They don't see that you recorded it at 3 a.m. sometimes, or
right. Or it was our third take because Tessa and I messed up the camera the first 2 times. And like it was just gong show. And honestly, still working through, still a startup, still figuring things out as we go. But hopefully it gets a little better every week.
It's a great show, and I'm glad that there's something out there that is specifically like tied direct line into the league. And I know that the players definitely appreciate it. Everybody at the league definitely does. So you get through the first season, it goes off really well. Everybody's loving the show. And then you come out with Tessa with this bombshell announcement that you guys are departing TSN. And this is what it is. You're joining PWHL Media House. How does this all come together?
Honestly, a series of conversations with us and friends at the PWHL, and we were kind of just planning season 2, like, oh, what's season 2 of the podcast gonna be like? We want to step it up a notch. We want production quality to be better. We want to be able to have more time to do this. So we were kind of just looking around like at different we were just talking to people at the PWHL and asking them for ideas, like what should we do with season 2 of the podcast? How do we make it really good? And somehow that evolved in, why don't you do the podcast? It evolved into, why don't you do the podcast with us? Like, why don't you two kind of bring your voices to the PWHL? And that evolved into, how about we build out a whole vertical where this can be a whole network of women's sports podcasts? And we're not there yet, obviously, but that's kind of the vision. Having a whole bunch of women's sports podcasts and maybe women's hockey podcasts specifically that live on PWHL Media House. And it just kind of becomes this whole network of really cool women talking about sports on a platform that's just for women's sports. And that's kind of like a big macro idea. But at a micro level, yeah, the idea was come to the PWHL, help us tell our story in our own voice and through these players' voices. And I know that there's been, like, I saw some commentary from like more traditional NHL reporters that are like, oh, how's this going to work? Like, you can't criticize the league if you work in the league. This is just like a new era. Like, it's hard to compare the PWHL to the NHL because they're just such different beasts. Like, it's just, there's just, it's just different. I don't even know how to describe it, but there's just not a case. It wouldn't work in the NHL, I don't think, to have this in-house voice telling all your stories and not being able to be critical of the league. But the PWHL is just kind of so progressive that they brought us on and they were like, no, we want your voices, your criticism. We want your thoughts. We want your opinions. Like, we want your voices, whatever that kind of means for us. So I think it'll be interesting to see how storytelling kind of changes in sports over the next 10 years or so, with teams and leagues kind of having more control. Part of the move was just kind of me examining the media landscape, and there's always going to be live sports on TSN. Like, those are always going to be there. And the department that I worked in at TSN Bar Down was really innovative in like, how do we fill the gap? Like, nobody's really watching TV in the middle of the day, just regular old flick your TV on TSN. I personally do, but the trend is more towards digital online content. So it was kind of like me looking around and thinking, okay, what is coming next in the sports world? And I think it's going to be a lot of in-house production. Like, I had a couple job interviews. I had a couple NHL teams reach out to me this summer about being kind of their in-house content person and being their in-house storyteller too. So I think it's extended across the NHL in a team specific way. And you're seeing like teams have their own media team and own team reporter that'll tell their stories. And I think we'll continue to kind of see that expand. Teams and leagues wanting to, I don't want to say control the narrative. And if you're working directly for like a traditional NHL team, of course it's control the narrative. But in this case with the PWHL, it's a little bit different. Like, Tessa and I don't have to run content by the league or anything like that. Like, we still sit in her basement and we shoot the shit and we say what we want. There's definitely no thumb on us or anything like that, which is good.
It is. And I mean, I think that that's what a lot of people attach themselves to. And that's why the online digital space has become so popular. I mean, the traditional stuff will always be there. But I mean, you know, I know they're not tied directly to a league. But like, for instance, you know, your former colleagues at Overdrive. That's why people love Overdrive. Those guys will slam league. You know, they'll go on there. And I think at times too, I won't mention which ones, in my opinion, do this, but at times there's some leagues out there that like they need to have a bit of a thicker skin in terms of because at the end of the day, Julia, like the only reason that any of us end up making a criticism of a league, a team, whatever, is because we're fans and we care. It's not because
you hate the league.
we don't hate it. Like, we want it to be better. And that's what that's the heart of what a criticism is.
Exactly.
This is like this. Wouldn't it be great if it was like this?
And that's what's so interesting about the PWHL. And it's just so many minds, just in all the meetings I've been in over the last few weeks and getting to work with like a really incredible team of people. Everyone's pulling exactly in the same direction. So when there is criticisms, when Tess and I come in and say, hey, we were external last year, we don't really think that worked. Nobody in the PWHL is getting their back up and saying, hey, we think we have this all figured out. We don't want your opinion. That's what makes it so successful. I think it was Greg Wyshynski said, like, it's hard to imagine like the PWHL board, like even criticizing one another. Because there are a lot of women who played together and who are obviously friends. But I think maybe what he was missing in his evaluation of that is they're all hockey players too. And like, who fucking goes at their teammates harder and is more honest with one another than hockey teammates in a locker room? So nobody's like, oh, we're all friends and we love one another's ideas. And like, that kind of is the case a lot of the time, because there's a lot of like-minded people pulling in the same direction. But everybody really fucking wants this to work. Like, everybody wants this to work, and it is working. It is working like really well so far. They're kind of ahead of where they thought they'd be right now. And I think that's because of how much it's a different kind of internal accountability. Like, you're not like worried that you're going to lose your job. You're not like, there's not that kind of sense of fear, but it's like, everyone needs to do well because this needs to work. It's like a different kind of drive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's all driven by passion. And I've enjoyed what you guys have done so far. I'm so excited to see how it continues to evolve now that you guys are officially positioned with the league. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. And, on that note, to kind of end here, and we got to have you back on during the season to talk about storylines and everything, because you're one of our favorite voices when it comes to the game.
Thank you.
You made a really cool post on Instagram when, you and Tessa both, when you guys announced you were going to be leaving TSN. And, one of them was like, a cool photo of you back in the day, as a little hockey player and stuff. And, when you consider what's happening now, where this league, not only does it exist and is thriving, you're now directly involved with it. And as a woman in this space, if you could go back and tell that little kid that this is what you were going to be doing, I'm sure that would be a pretty special moment.
She'd be like, what the hell? I thought we were going to the NHL. This is terrible. I thought we were getting drafted in the first round. But that's true. Like, we always laugh about that. Me and Tessa have laughed about it before. When you grow up a little girl playing hockey, or when you did, I was like, okay, I guess I got to work really hard and be the first woman to get drafted into the NHL. That was my thought. And then the 2006 Olympics, because I was too small to really remember 2002. I was only 4, but I remember very vividly the 2006 Olympics and seeing that as a more viable goal. So it would be really powerful. And then when I got a little bit older, I saw Christine Simpson on Hockey Night in Canada, and I was like, oh, I could be like that. So the fact that the PWHL exists, yeah, it's unfathomable almost. But in that interview with Blair Turnbull yesterday, she said something that stuck with me, and I think it's so true. And I think it has to be just like the MO for this season, because last season was about, we're here. The league is here. This is happening. We've arrived. And this season is going to be all about the hockey. This season is going to be all about the on-ice product. This season is going to be all about the pace of play and what's going on, kind of on that sheet of ice. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited for the opportunities it can create for women going forward, because we talk so much about that little girls can dream about playing in the PWHL. Their odds are just as good as every other little boy who's dreaming about playing in the NHL. They're not very good. Every little girl in Canada plays hockey now. You know what I mean? It's not crazy for girls to play hockey anymore. So the dream of playing in the PWHL. Oh no, my cat is coming up on my table right now.
That's okay. We have animal mascots on the show all the time.
I love it. The dream of playing in the PWHL is a long shot, but what I do isn't a long shot. You could just work hard, and if you love to cover the game, and we've got so many great women working on and not just women. There's lots of great men too working in our marketing departments, working in our front office as a GM, as a ref. It just broadens the scope of opportunity for women coming up in all facets, not just athletes.
Well, and that's extremely important. And I'm looking forward to this season. I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing more from the Jocks in Jill's podcast with Tessa Bonhomme and Julia Tocheri. Guys, follow the podcast. It's available everywhere, including where you get this show. So no excuse. You can find it. And remember to follow Julia on Instagram as well. Julia, hey, I really appreciate this. Like I said at the start, you're a friend of the show. We definitely love to have you back to chat more about the goings on in the league. And best of luck going forward. This is really, really exciting. I'm proud of you, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me yap about myself. I appreciate it. You guys are the best.
Absolutely. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, lots to talk about in the Toronto sports scene. Okay. Clarkey, I know he's got thoughts. We'll talk about that next here on Instigating. Welcome back to wrap things up this week. A great week here on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks to our two great guests, Paul LaPolice, longtime CFL coach and current analyst of the league. Awesome breakdown. Awesome to have Lapo on and break down a great Grey Cup victory for our boatmen. A dominant win, a dominant fourth quarter. That might have been one of the most lopsided final quarters of football I've ever seen.
We both said it. We both predicted an Argo win. I said, this team just wins. That's all they do is win in the Grey Cup. It's been so long, I don't even remember the last loss. This team gets to the Grey Cup and they win. They perform in the playoffs. We called it. I had a great time. It's been a great week, sports week. Leafs haven't lost a game in a week. The Argos
been nice.
win the Grey Cup. It's been great. It really has.
It has been great. And thanks again, obviously, to our friend of the show, Julia Tocheri, joining the PWHL's Media House. Of course, Jills and Jocks, her podcast with Tessa Bonham, leaving TSN, the two of them, to start this venture. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll be tracking the PWHL season. I'm sure Clarkey will be cheering for the Toronto Scepters, of course. The Toronto Scepters. Go Scepters.
Yes.
I think I will, too. I like their jersey. Of all the jerseys, it's the best one, I think.
Okay. Well, it took a year to make it, so it should be good.
Absolutely. And Julia and Tessa are going to do a great job. Season 2 of the podcast already started. Blair Turnbull's on there.
What year are we at?
This is season 4, brother.
4, but then we had MWO Sports before that for 4 years.
We were on MWO Sports for
3 years.
Ooh, no.
Producer Adam, do you know?
I want to say it was 4.5 years.
I agree. 4.5 years, somewhere in there.
We were
on the other guys there for a while too. We started on the other guys network.
Yeah, the other guys. Yep. We've been, Clarkey, you and I have been arguing on here for a long time.
We have.
It's quite a thing.
We have. Now, that's what happens behind me there. Sandy is just rolling around.
Yeah, she's had it. She's had it with our fighting. And here and let me put Sandy at ease, because she's the unofficial mascot of the show. Yeah. So let me put her at ease, because this is something we don't need to fight about. Obviously, 2 hits recently in the NHL, both involving the Leafs, that have really got people talking. I don't want to spend too much time on the Ryan Reeves one. It's just a bad hit by Ryan Reeves, a guy that's made a career out of these.
5 games. What do you think? I told you what I said as soon as it happened, right? What I thought.
Yeah. What did you think he was getting?
12.
3? Sorry. Yeah. You were on the extreme. You thought 12. I thought he'd get 6 or 7. It is what he should. I won't disagree with you there. I think it's appropriate that they did suspend him.
Oh, of course it is.
I would have liked to have seen more games. I mean, if we're going by, and I know it's a different player and a different level of track record, but I've said it 100 times. Like, I don't mean to start sounding like a conspiracy theorist Leaf fan here, but Tom Wilson's the only guy that gets serious suspensions in this league. He's the only guy.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the nice.
He easily could have got more games for that.
Well, yeah, I thought he would have got more. Anyway,
now we move over to that was this past weekend against the Oilers. Hope Darnell Nurse okay. We move into this
comeback
week.
Win. Yep.
We move another great win for the Leafs without Austin Matthews, who's just chilling over in Germany trying to figure this out. I don't like a schnitzel treatment. I don't know what it is. Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure it's a Dutch beer, brother.
Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure. Let me Google that.
What's
really
a German
quick,
beer?
I'm a.
Yeah, you're probably. I don't know if you're right or not, but
I just want to make sure that Heineken, because I don't want to. It's a Dutch beer.
Okay. Well, they have it in Germany, is what I meant.
Yeah. Oh, it's it's easily next to Guinness, the most popular alcoholic beverage in Europe, I would say. Heineken is a very big deal. Anyway, we move into this week.
Yes.
And I think some people at the league office are hammering some Heinekens while they're watching these games.
Wow, careful.
Because the Matthew Nyes hit that he absorbs from Zach Whitecloud, I thought that was such a gutless hit. It does the same thing Ryan Reeves does. He elevates the shoulder up. He even has the elbow a little bit on contact that crunches in as he hits Nyes, but he gets him right in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I am floored, and I'm just over it, dude. I'm over reviewing things. Get rid of it. Because if we're just going to slow the game down for you to even more inexplicably get the call wrong, I don't want it to be part of it anymore. I don't care if after the fact there was a goal that should have been offside and they missed it. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I want review gone, because for the league to review that and not say that that was a headshot 5-minute major with what I believe, and he's not getting one. I've been on Twitter all day, Clarkey. I haven't seen anything about Zach Whitecloud getting a hearing with the league.
Of course,
not
he's
once.
not getting a hearing.
I am floored, and I loved. We got to have him on soon. I loved Bonesy's call on that with Jimmy Ralph. He said this is a travesty like 4 times, which is exactly what I would have done if I was on the mic. It's insane that
good hockey hit, Ryan. It was a good hockey hit according to the.
It wasn't. It's like, it's insane to me that A, no penalty, B, no suspension, C, Leafs are shorthanded after that because Simon Benoit went over.
It is unbelievable how they're showing this at the arena. Everyone is oohing and awing because you could see his shoulder hit his head direct on, and the announcers, everybody, everybody. Well, he didn't leave the ice until he actually hit him, and his momentum.
You're right.
He didn't jump and hit him.
Right.
He hit him and then he left the ice. Let's get that straight. But how can that be nothing and Ryan Reeves gets 5 games?
I know.
There's not that much of a discrepancy. Like,
you're right.
Not
I
that
know what
wide.
you're saying.
Like, it just.
No, it's not that wide.
And I'm not saying that Reeves shouldn't have got 5 games. But
no.
You're telling me
I
that
understand.
wasn't a penalty? That was a good hockey hit? I thought we're trying to eliminate where point of initial contact is the head.
And much like the Reeves hit, my argument here would be that Whitecloud's absolutely allowed to hit Nyes there.
Well, sure.
It's just that the path that he takes and the end result, which again, we're constantly told, Clarkey, what are we told? It's your responsibility to be responsible for your stick, your body, your shoulder, the way you hit guys. It's your responsibility. You need to be responsible for it. He can make that hit and go lower, but he makes sure that he's way up there. He has his shoulder as high as he possibly can go and gets right up through the visor. Like, for the league to look at that and determine that there's no penalty, and no one would have had a problem if there wasn't a subsequent suspension. I think if the call on the ice was made properly, which was a 5-minute major for a headshot. And again, I'm not trying to sit here and say Zach Whitecloud's a dirty player. He meant to do it. No.
You know what I'm finding funny right now?
What it is.
I gotta interrupt you.
Please.
Okay. Just, can you do me a favor? Lean a little bit, like 3 inches to your right. Okay, now up. Move your shoulder up. Because you've been shouldering your bobblehead in the background. In the head. No, the other side. Yeah. Your shoulder's been hitting that guy. Yeah, that guy right there. There. You just hit him right in the head. Yeah. Just like the guy's head's leaning right in. Sorry, I got off on a little tangent.
Yeah,
Can I interrupt?
Right?
Hold on. Can I interrupt? Producer Adam, interrupt?
Producer Adam, yeah.
Can I take you back to a clip from our show from October 4th? Just over
I know what he's saying. I know what it is.
Hold on.
Ryan saying he's not doing it.
Here we go. I'm going
to
end this argument here. Here we go.
Go ahead. Yep.
Dude, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this whole, the player safety department. I can't do it anymore. I can't even comment on the decisions they make because they're so asinine most of the time. I can't do it. I'm not doing it this year.
You will. I guarantee you will.
I'm just going to sit there and go,
in Washington will get suspended again, and you'll comment on it.
What?
Watch your mouth now. That's a Stanley Cup champion.
You're done. You can't comment on it.
Turn this off.
That good going, Adam.
Can I say in my defense, I technically didn't comment on the Department of Player Safety. I commented
you did, because you were talking about their
Twitter.
Twitter and looking and seeing if there's a hearing. You did.
Yeah, but I didn't complain about what they doled out necessarily.
But see, now here's
I'm not saying it was inappropriate to play the clip, but I didn't technically. I don't know.
How do you think I would love to know how this works? I'd love to. You have Eric Ferlot, Kendrick Nicholson, Kendrick, by the way, from Milverton, I think, around somewhere around there. I know his dad, and they're the two officials on the ice. Remember, Sheldon Keefe hated Eric for a lot. Anyway, those two guys, and then you have the Situation Room in Toronto. I would love to know what the consensus was. Was it unanimous? Was it a unanimous decision? I think when they come on, they should say, like the first judge,
like a boxing match.
Yes.
I don't know.
Mike Tyson wins.
Well, they need more guys in there because there's only like 3 or 4 guys in the Situation Room.
No,
with upwards of like 12, 13 games. They need more guys in there. I think it's embarrassing.
I thought they changed that, but anyway.
I don't know, dude. And I don't care. Because we're not commenting on that, are we?
No, we're not. Anyway, the Leafs are playing well with a lot of guys out. When
they are.
Curtis Holmberg is your second line center, you got to wonder. But Fraser Minton with his NHL first the other night, which was
great. Yeah, good to see. I like Fraser.
And there's Nicky Robertson still looking for his.
I think he's about done. I don't know.
You put him on waivers, someone will pick him up. You just got to try to trade him, but.
I don't know what.
Right now they need bodies, so they're not going to trade him right now.
No, they can't right now. But
does he have a goal? I thought his goal was
1. I think he has 1.
Oh, I thought it was. Like he has. I thought it was.
It doesn't matter. He's not doing much. Is the point?
No,
we're almost out of time, Clarkey. So let's move to the couch potatoes.
Okay.
What do you have teed up here,
dude? You're excited. No doubt. There's no doubt who my couch potatoes are.
Yes.
Congratulations once again, 111th Grey Cup to my Toronto Argonauts. And
hold on.
You came on
row Argos.
Yeah, you joined the bandwagon a little late, but you're on it. That's fine. You're allowed. But it was just again, it was great to see. I remember I go back to 1983, the first time one of my teams won a championship. The Argos Grey Cup win over the BC Lions, 18-17. Cedric Minter backing into the end zone with a minute left after a throw from Joe Barnes. That was my very first time that I had a team win a championship, and a lifelong Argo fan. I had season tickets. And people say, "Oh, I don't watch the CFL. I don't watch the CFL. I'm an NFL fan." Blah 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 blah. You know what? I don't have a team in the NFL, so it's hard for me to get into it. But when you talk about the CFL versus the NFL, did you see the numbers?
The numbers
for the TV ratings? Adam, put them up.
I didn't see the numbers. No.
Okay, here's the numbers. Okay, Bills and Chiefs, 895,000. Okay,
how about that?
Argos Blue Bombers, 3.54 million people tuned in at some point to watch that game.
Let's go.
You and I were 2 of those.
Let's go.
0.54.
You were 2 of those?
So as a good friend of mine and a guy I worked with for years always said, the CFL is like porn. Everyone watches it and no one admits to it.
It's a good line.
That's Jim Hunt. Jim Shaky Hunt said that. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And there you go. 3.54 million people watched the game on Sunday. Yeah. You like that, do you?
That was something. Yeah. I don't want Pornhub emailing us looking for sponsorships on here. I don't think that'll fly, but that's a hell of a line. All right, quickly, my couch potato producer, and this is sad. This is sad for me to do this on a day where it was announced that he's suffered the most significant injury of his career. It's Ovi. It's the big dog. Come on. Mm-hmm. He is within 27 of tying Gretzky, 28 to pass. He's still, as we record this, leading the league in goals. And
incredible.
He's the oldest player to ever lead the league in goals. Look at this. Alex Ovechkin still repping it.
Pinpoint to the top shelf.
That was against Seattle. He would get injured later in that game when some guy named Jack McBain ran into him. Anyway, 4 to 6 weeks with a broken fibula. He's going to come back. He's still breaking the record this year. This guy's a freak. He's the best 39-year-old player I've ever seen in this league, and he's already the greatest goal scorer of all time. Good night. I can't wait to watch him pass Gretzky. Thanks for the call there too, producer Adam, throwing it in my guy Joe Beninati. All right, that's it. Thanks to Paul LaPolice. Thanks to Julia Tocheri. Congrats to our boatmen, the Argos. Let's go. Another great cup. And hey, you can watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Follow us on socials at Instigating Pod. Find the podcast version on all your favorite apps. That's Clarkey. I'm Drury.
I expect an Argo hat on you soon, mister.
Let's go. I'm going to get one. Absolutely. Okay. Hey, Christmas around the corner, man. All right. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.
Oh, what have I done?